Hey, everybody. I am Stephanie Goss, and this is another episode of the Uncharted Podcast. This week on the podcast, Andy and I are in the mailbag. We've got a great email from a brand new practice owner that has a tiny team of 4. That's right, themselves included. They have got 2 technicians and a pseudo manager, and they are trying to make things happen on a shoestring schedule, shoestring budget. And they are wondering, what do they do when one of the techs throws a giant monkey wrench into the plans by suddenly changing their mind about the schedule that they thought everybody was on board with? This was a fun one. Andy and I didn't have a whole lot of work to do because this email was written by a practice owner that solidly thought out their plan and I think just wanted some affirmation that maybe they were doing the right thing. Let's get into this.
And now, the Uncharted Podcast.
And we are back. It's me, Dr. Andy Roark, and the one and only Stephanie. Everybody's working for the weekend, Goss. Everybody's working for the weekend.
Yeah.
Oh, man. How are you? Working for the weekend, I'm sure.
I am good. How are you?
I am
busy.
I am good. I am deeply good. Let me tell you an inspiring Andy Roark story, just so you know.
Okay.
All right. Just bear with me here.
Does this have to do with CrossFit? Am I going to roll my
eyes? It does, 100%. It's a CrossFit story, just because the audience loves them when I tell CrossFit stories.
Oh, Lord, help me. Okay.
I just feel the attention. Okay. So anyway, you're familiar with the concept of a muscle up at this point. This is the pull up, except you pull it all the way down to your waist. And so you're like with your arms locked out on top of the bar. So anyway, I've been working on my muscle up, as you know.
Okay.
That was the highlight of 2024. 2024, right. I did a muscle up. Also, my children got older and good things happened to their life, but I don't really remember because mostly it's about the muscle up. And so the muscle up is a big deal. So I'm at a place where I can do them about half the time. Anyway. The CrossFit Open comes around, Stephanie Goss. The CrossFit Open is an
like
international. It is like the Olympics for CrossFit, except anyone can enter. Imagine if there was an Olympics and everybody did the event, and then they looked at how the scores were, and then the very best people got to go to the actual Olympics. That's how the CrossFit Open works. And now, I will tell you, I have no illusions about going to the CrossFit Games. Let's be honest. No illusions at all. However, I did this last year, and I know how I ranked. And so I came in like 15,000th out of men who are like 45 to 49. So anyway, I have this dream of being in the top half of the people in my age group that enter this ridiculous contest. All right. So all that to come together to say, there's 3 workouts. We did the second workout this last weekend. It was a bunch of stuff. And then near the end, there are some muscle ups. And the way they do this contest is you get scored on all the stuff that you can do. And when you get to something you can't do and you say, that's it, I'm out, I can't do that. That's like the end of your score. And so I'm like, oh man, I know in my mind, this workout takes 12 minutes. I have 12 minutes. If I can do 1 muscle up, it will just catapult me past so many people in my age group. And so I go there, and on Friday, I do the workout, and my daughter Jacqueline is there. And she didn't want to be home alone, so she came with me to the gym. So she's my judge. I'm doing the thing. And with a minute left, I get to the muscle ups. And Stephanie, I failed 3 times in a row. I slowly slid back off the bar and fell down to the ground. And 3 times in a row, and then the time ran out and I laid on the floor and it was just devastating. And I was like, it's one thing to be able to do a muscle up. It's another thing to be able to do a horrible workout and you can't breathe and then you're supposed to do it.
Right.
But I couldn't live with that. And so last night at the end of the window, I redid it. I redid the workout. I went through the whole thing and I went for a muscle up and I failed again.
Oh no.
And then with 10 seconds left, I did the ugliest muscle up. Imagine a pull-up bar and my scrawny legs just kicking, kicking and flailing and I'm gyrating, trying to use friction to get over the bar.
Yeah.
But I did. I got exactly 1 muscle up and I entered it. And I am in the 57th percentile of CrossFit guys my age. And so life is good. I'm headed for a catastrophic loss in the third event, I'm pretty sure. I fully suspect I will be knocked back down to the 40th percentile.
I mean,
But right now, I
you're 57th.
am, you know,
Okay.
I am a walking embodiment of Eye of the Tiger.
I mean, technically, if you're in the 50th, does that mean you're in the top half?
Yes.
I mean,
yes. Yeah. Like
you're in the
100
50s,
is
so
the
you're
best.
above 60. So
Yes.
I could get down with that. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So you made your goal
So-
with your muscle up.
I did.
Okay.
It was ugly. I think I hurt my arm. Like I'm injured. But I did it.
But you did it. You did it. Okay. I am proud of you. Like,
Thank you.
And on no planet does this sound exciting to me.
I like to know where I am with my content. I appreciate that.
On no planet or no world is this something that I would like voluntarily do or be involved in, and I can still be very happy for you and say
Thank you. That's really what it is. It's like I don't expect anyone else to care about this. So I'm glad you said that. I don't expect anyone to care about this. I really don't. But just know that for whatever strange reasons, and I don't think people have to understand the reasons, you should know that this is a thing that I am like, I try so hard at this.
Yes.
And
Yes.
like, you know, if someone had a hobby that I didn't understand at all, like basket weaving, and they were like, look, the basket weaver open is coming, I would be like, tell me about it. Tell me about it. Because I'm your friend.
Because
I think it's what it means to be a friend. Being a real friend is listening to someone else's CrossFit stories or them talk about conflict they're having with their parents.
Okay. It's totally true. So I will tell you, so we have had some discussions on the podcast, the Uncharted After Dark episodes, about the fact that I, in this last couple of years, have re-entered the dating world.
Yes.
Which is a frightening place. And I was on a date last night, and I have been seeing someone that I really care about, and they have a hobby that I do not like. I have no interest in, do not get it, do not. But let me tell you, it was so much fun. And I was sitting there like raptly listening to them go off about growing mushrooms and fungi and like just the science nerding behind it. And I was like, I do not understand why anyone would want to have this as their hobby, but I am fascinated because watching you be excited about something that you love is exciting. And I think that's what it's about. It's that whether it's friendship or a relationship, like I don't understand it. I don't have to even like it or get it. Just seeing somebody be excited for a thing that they're into is I'm here for it. It's a lot of fun.
I think one of the kindest things that you can do for someone is just to ask them a good question about the thing that they are passionate about. You know what I mean? Like, especially mega props if you ask them a question that like you can understand, but it's like, ask it in a nice way, but why is this important to you? Like people love to, if it seems like a genuine question, I think you can learn a lot about people and they really open up. But you know, you and I talk about relationships all the time as part of what we do at Uncharted and how much easier everything is if the people on your team, and by know them, I mean that they're doing the CrossFit Open, or you know that they're really excited about mushroom season. I don't know if is it season? Is there a growing season? Like I
don't think so because it's like an indoor. It's like a whole indoor thing. So I don't think so. But we could call it a mushroom season. That works.
I don't know. I mean, again, like those are the questions that I would ask. Is this a seasonal thing?
Yes. That's a question. That's a question for next time.
We should. I'm going to help you make a list of questions. These are the questions Andy has.
Is there mushroom? Andy has so many questions.
Season?
Is there mushroom
season? Do you call
season?
it harvesting? Is that what you call it?
Yes, it was fascinating. But I will tell you that there's truth to that, because what your point about asking a question that you can understand, because to me, I do not understand why someone in their right mind would want to like spend all of this money and do this hobby to grow fungus. Like that does not make sense to me. But the science and knowing what actually is happening when you're inoculating a specimen plate, like that I understand from the clinic. Yeah. And so I could ask questions that were actually intelligent. And I was like, tell me about this process. And I was able to relate it to something that made sense to me. And I was like, okay. And just being excited. It's like, I will never understand why you choose to go and torture yourself at the gym at 5 a.m. on a regular basis. But you know what? I will watch your gifts when you make a muscle up gift for you. I will do that for you because that's what friends do.
I am a Visla, in case you didn't know. Like, I am high
100%.
energy, tending towards neurotic. You know what I mean? Like, I have to run.
You
I
need an
have to do
outlet.
things. Yeah, I think it's a two-way street in this relationship. I think a good relationship is someone who is willing to ask the other person about what they're passionate about. But I also think if you get asked, you have to have the self-control to wrap it up in under 5 minutes. You know what I mean? I think that's it too. I think you can abuse your friends that way.
Yes.
And so I own the fact that no one's sticking around for more than a 5-minute CrossFit story. I'll tell you, I was telling that story and I was also watching the clock the whole time. Like, getting tight here, Andy. Bring this one home. You'll notice I did not tell you about the rest of the workout or what was involved. I just,
I appreciate that. I appreciate the self-restraint and the self-control.
100%.
Leaning into our friendship. Well,
totally.
We have got a great episode today that has nothing to do with CrossFit or mushrooms.
Nope. But it does have to do with weekends and free time.
It does have to do with weekend and free time. It does.
That was everybody's working for the weekend. That's where it all comes together, Goss. You just got to give me a little time, and I'm bringing it all back together.
Bringing it home. No, we got an episode in the mailbag that makes me so happy because I get to say, what does your handbook say? Which is, as you know, if you listen to the podcast for any length of time, one of my favorite things to ask. But we got a great email. And what's so funny about this one is that they actually wrote our answer for us.
Oh, they nailed it. This guy was like, I read this. I was like, this is shortest. Yes.
I read it and I was like, they told us what the answer is. Do we do an episode on this? And I think it's a really great question because I think a lot of people would not actually have been able to know the answer or write out such a detailed plan. And so I think this episode is more for them than it is our actual writer, to whom we probably are just going to say, yeah, you already have the answer. But we got an email from a brand new practice owner that just started up their practice this year. And so it's a really small team. They've got a couple of technicians and a manager.
Like by a couple, we really mean a
literally
couple.
Means
like,
two.
There's two of them.
There's two of them. So super small, single doctor.
I think that's important. It is that small. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a team of 4, right? And so they're trying to be open Monday through Friday and not trying to work the weekend, but trying to be open full days Monday through Thursday and a half day on Friday.
Yeah, they close at 1 on Friday.
Yeah, and so,
the question on everyone's mind right now is, where is this place and are they accepting applications?
Can I go work there?
I hear you.
And you see right off the bat the challenge because you have 4 people covering 5 days a week. And if you're working longer shifts, which a lot of us in veterinary medicine often, our minds automatically go to working 410s, because that's the schedule that a lot of us have become accustomed to, then how do you cover that gap, right? And so this is the practice owner who was like, look, I was really honest with everybody. Here's the schedule. This is what I'm hiring for. I hired 2 technicians. They both said that they could work the schedule. And now we're not even a couple months into it. And I have one of the 2 techs who is like, hey, I don't want to work on Fridays. I can't work on Fridays. And the context is one of the technicians, though, in particular, this one who doesn't want to work on Fridays, came from a different background and setting in ER. And the scheduling in ER is radically different than it is in GP. And this is a general practice. And so this is a tech who is used to having kind of a weird schedule and also being able to probably have some accommodations in a bigger practice with more bodies and more shifts like you have in an ER. And so this owner is like, look, this tech is like, hey, I can do this schedule. And now a few months into it has changed their mind. And it's like, I cannot work this schedule. I do not want to work on Fridays. The owner is basically asking the question, like, what do I do? Do I stand my ground? Do I draw a line in the sand? Do I give in? What do I do here so that I can not feel taken advantage of, that I can support this little tiny team, but also so that I can stay open and not necessarily have to hire again someone when somebody quits just a few months into it because I won't work with them on their schedule. Super great email, super great set of questions.
I want to read out part of it here because I think this is important. So here, sort of around the answer place, she says, my initial thought is that I want to be flexible and also I can't agree to setting a precedent where one technician has Monday through Thursday as a schedule and every Friday off and not be able to offer that to my second technician. Additionally, that puts my very small staff at a disadvantage because then taking any Friday off becomes very difficult, especially when the schedule was very clear and honestly is very cushy to begin with. And Great. I love this clarity. I like, this is a person who has clearly thought about the consequences of the choice. And I think that's really great. I think one of the skills in leadership is being able to look at a decision and then accurately, not catastrophizing, but accurately going, what are the ramifications of this choice? And I was like, yes, if you let one person have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off every single week, that means the other person never gets that. And they're kind of like, wait a second, why am I working every Friday? Yeah. And then also, if you don't sort it out, you say, well, how can other people be off? I mean, I think it's one thing that you could say, you know, we don't deal in absolutes. So you could go and say, hey, look, if I was going to give you this schedule, I'm not, but if I was going to, hey, look, this is the thing. You can have this schedule, but know that when the other technician requests Friday off, you're going to have to come in and take it. And like, that's just has to be contingent. So you can do that, stuff like that. But I think that misses the crux of the issue. I think that I think this person has clearly thought a lot about it. They talk about fairness. They talk about limiting their flexibility. And other thing is, and I just got to say, I love this. It sounds to me very much like this person set clear expectations about what the job was and what the schedule was and what the hours were when they were hiring. And guys, that's the saving grace. I think that really does, in my mind, that makes a lot of this easier. If you're sitting there going, I don't know, maybe they didn't realize this. I think that you can question, say, did I maybe make a mistake? It does not sound that way to me from this email. And I think that that's really important. So I think first thing for Headspace here is, boy, it matters to me if clear expectations were set and communicated at the beginning about what the schedule would be, and this person took the job. I don't care that they did emergency work. You can, like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, you're used to a different thing. And I go, well, I would have sympathy if things were not clearly explained about what we're doing. Also, this is not a complicated schedule. Monday through Thursday and then Friday until 1 p.m. Like, this is not rocket science. Like, I understand if someone came into a place that was 24/7 and they didn't realize what it would mean to work every third Sunday. You know, like, I get it, but like, there's nothing shocking in this schedule that's been proposed. The idea the person doesn't want to come in on Fridays, and, you know, she says it's a 20-minute drive to come in, and I don't care. Like, that's not my problem. You knew where the building was located when you took the job, and you knew what the schedule was. And so anyway, I sort of start with that as clear expectations are your friend here. And so I sort of put that down at the beginning. I think the other thing for me in Headspace, I'll say right off the bat, is this practice sounds amazing. And this is why I wanted to talk about this mailbag. Guys, I love being a business owner. I love it. And I know that there's a lot of people who have leaned back from practice ownership. I think that we're starting to see a resurgence in independent practice ownership. And just like, I love it. I love the fact that you can just decide you want to be your own boss and run your own vet clinic. And you can hire 3 staff members and you can open your own little boutique vet clinic that's open Monday through Thursday and a half day on Friday. And you can do that. And those can be your hours, and that can be your baby. And you can practice medicine the way that you want. And you can grow your own clientele, and you can decide what the logo is, and you can figure out what your on-hold messages are going to sound like. And you get to write the protocols that the staff is going to follow, and you can decide how much surgery and dentistry you're going to do, and you get to have all of that control. And I think people are afraid of being business owners, and I would like to see that go back the other way. You don't have to be the business owners that you see elsewhere. If you don't want to manage 10 other vets, then don't manage 10 other vets. Yeah. There's 100% success to be had in just hanging your shingle out and making the little life that you want to have. And that can be that. I have a friend, and you have a friend. It's Dr. Erica Cartwright, who is a good friend of both of ours. And she is a practice owner, and she has a small practice. It's like a 1 to 1.5 vet. I think they may have 2 vets now, sort of practice. Yeah. She does not and has never missed any of her kids' sporting events. Like, that's it. She'll close the practice down and go and watch her kid play baseball. And you know why? Because she's the owner and it's her practice. She can do it. And that's just how she rolls. And she's got a great practice. It's very profitable. She does very well. It's a great practice. And she does not miss kids' sporting events. And she's militant about it. You can do that when it's your place. And so anyway, I just wanted to stop and sing a little love song for this tiny little vet practice that got going at the very beginning of 2025. And I love it. I love where their head's at. I love what they're trying to do. I love that they're starting with this like tight little schedule, and that's what they're going to do. It just makes me super happy.
Yeah. No, I think it's great. And I think from a headspace perspective, for me, I will start with zooming all the way out and asking the questions that some people who are not this practice owner may be asking themselves, because this practice owner clearly like thought it out. To your point, they had the foresight to hire with the intention of communicating, this is the schedule, this is my expectation, like this is, this is the agreement that we're making. And for so many of us in practice, we do have to pause and ask ourselves the question you said, which is, did we actually communicate it? And so that's where, for me, it usually starts with, what does your handbook say? What did you actually communicate? And in particular, what was communicated in writing to a team member? And so if you are someone who is hiring and who is doing the process, and maybe for this practice owner, this is the, hey, you did great here, and your even better yet opportunity is maybe you didn't get it in writing. And so maybe next time when we hire, we do an offer letter that has the details completely in writing and signed to, because then you get to your point, you can turn around and say to them, this is what we agreed to. Now, it's not to say that you can't do it on a handshake deal or a verbal conversation. You still can. And it gives you the ability to, without contest, be able to turn to the other person and say, this is what you signed to. This is what you agreed to in writing. And this is what we're working off of. So it gives you that legal precedent and that legal leg to stand on, not to say that you want to sue, your employees, not to say you want to make it that kind of heightened level of emotion. And also, sometimes it's important to be able to flex a little bit as a leader. Sometimes you need to. I try not to have to pull that lever very often, but sometimes it is an important one to be able to pull. And so that's where, when I ask the question of what does your handbook say, that's what I'm getting at is, what did we communicate in writing? How did we communicate it? What were the expectations? And this practice owner did a great job of thinking out, okay, here's my schedule. I'm hiring with the intention in mind. This is the trade-off. You do get every Friday afternoon off. And so, yes, you work a half day or a 3/4 day on Friday, and you might have to drive into the practice and it might be 20 minutes away, but you knew all of that when you signed up. And as a result, you get every Friday afternoon off. So you get a 2.5 day weekend. There are a lot of people in veterinary medicine who would love to kickstart their weekend at, 1 or 2 o'clock on a Friday afternoon instead of 6 or 7 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. So I think that is all relative, because at the end of the day, this practice owner still has to deal with this employee who says, I don't really care that other people might like that schedule. It doesn't work for me. And you still have to deal with that. That's one of the unfortunate parts about being the boss, is the buck does stop here and you're the one who's got to deal with the headache. But from a headspace perspective, I think starting and asking yourself, what did you communicate and how did it get communicated? And then figuring out how to have that conversation in a way that is calm and rational and not triggered. You're going into it safe. You're not angry at this person. You're not like, oh my gosh, I just want to shake them because they're making me so angry. Because I could understand if you would feel that way. It's hard to feel like you did the work. You outlined your expectations. You were really, really clear. And yet still here you are having that conversation.
I agree with you. It's great to learn things like this when you have 2 employees. Like, these are things you learn. People are incredible. It's incredible. You can go to people and you can be like, look, here's the deal. We're going to close at 1 o'clock on Friday. And people will look at you and go, that's a long way to drive only to get off at 1 o'clock. And you're like, what? Are you serious? Like, you can't win. There will always be people who will have a problem no matter what you do. I think it's great. I think that we've probably learned we need to communicate with the schedules, like communicate right on the street. If you did not do that, I don't think it changes anything this time at this point. And I just want to pause here for a second too and say, people just don't understand what it's like to be the business owner. Like, they don't understand the pressure. Everybody wants you to make them happy. And they think that there's a magic money tree that you can shake and have more resources than you have. And there's some magic like bench that you can pull people off to make things happen. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm not here, he'll have to go to his magic closet where he keeps extra vet techs and pull one out. Like, I don't have that. And if I did, I think it'd be illegal. But it's nothing, but again, I think it's not people are bad. They don't understand. And again, they have faith in you they're like, oh, you're going to figure it out. Like, they have more faith in you than you do. And so it is really lonely when you're the business owner. And there is this pressure to make everybody happy. So when people go, well, I can't do that, you feel like, oh no, I'm going to let this person down. And I think a lot of us have the natural response of, I will fall on this sword so that other people are not unhappy. And that's not a healthy place to be. And so, I think there's that. I think that we're all inundated with messages from business gurus, and we see business advice on Facebook, and we see really rowdy, loud people talking about their employment experience, and most of them are employees. You don't see business owners out there talking about how they feel, but you'll hear, employees on Facebook saying, why would you enforce this schedule? Everyone should be able to work 4/10s. That's what we do. If you can't offer that, then you're clearly not invested in your people. And all of this stuff is people who are shouting, and they would not shout that if they owned a business, because they would have a brain about what this actually means and the ramifications of promising anybody a set schedule when, you don't have enough control in the world, and we're just trying to keep the doors open and do a good job. And so this is not a condemnation of 4-day, 10-hour schedule. That's fine. A lot of places use it and they like it. I've seen a lot of places use it, and then what happens is people burn out. It's hard to work 10-hour days and you have a lunch break. So you're doing 12 hours at the clinic with a lunch break, and it's just, it's a tough schedule. But it's not about that. It's just about the idea that you hear all of these things about what schedule you're supposed to offer and how it's supposed to be. And you go, well, those guidelines and those experiences aren't based on having 2 technicians trying to cover a whole schedule. And so this is what we can do. And people go, well, hire another technician. And you're like, did you miss the part where we just opened in January and we're just trying to get this started? And so I do think that when people actually look at the specifics and they look at your practice, they go, oh, I get it. But the people online, they're not looking at your practice. They're just shouting about whatever their own experience is. But it's hard not to internalize that as the business owner and feel like these people you don't know are shouting at you about what you're supposed to do for your employees. And that can be an isolating and lonely place.
Well, and I think the thing that is important, and I've had this exact conversation with our friends like Erica and Jen and some of our Uncharted members, because the reality is, for every person out there who this wouldn't fit, and maybe it's not a right fit for this person, if they used to be an ER tech and they want a certain type of schedule, it may not be the right fit for them. There are people out there who want your schedule, your environment, it's the same as with our clients. And I tell people, we need to stop being so worried about what the clinic across the street is doing and start competing with ourselves, because there's a flavor that's going to fit everybody, and we're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. It's the same thing from a leadership perspective. The sooner you as an owner can get into the headspace to your point and recognize that you are not going to be able to make everybody happy, and you will be someone's cup of tea. And lean into that. And the better off you're going to be from a happiness perspective in the long run, because maybe it is the right fit, and maybe you do make some changes that can accommodate this employee, but maybe it's not. And that can be okay, because maybe it opens the door to the next person who does want your thing, who does want your schedule, who does want your culture, who does want your environment. And so I think keeping that in mind as an owner is super, super helpful lesson that I had to learn in terms of, okay, it's not always the end of the world. Because in the moment, when you feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders, it can feel like the end of the world. If I was this practice owner and I was like, well, crap, I just opened in January, and now one of my 2 techs might leave me if I don't, give them what they want.
Of my technicians.
Exactly. I'm losing half of my team. What did I do wrong? That can feel like the end of the world. And so, take a deep breath and remember, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah. And I'll just put a plug here and say there's a reason that Uncharted has a practice owner community that is only for practice owners. And it's because it's lonely, and it's really nice to have other practice owners to say, hey guys, I'm looking at this. What do you think? And other people who are in your shoes will say, oh, I've been through that. Let me tell you let me tell you what I did well and what I didn't do well. And there's just nothing more valuable. And just the feeling validated is worth a whole lot. Let's take a break real quick. We'll get into our action steps when we get back.
Okay.
All right. So let's jump into the action steps here. I think our writer did a great job of basically saying, I don't think this is going to work for this person. They were like, am I wrong here to say this is, I understand, but this is the schedule that we have, and we're not going to give you a schedule where you get 3-day weekends and, and the other person has to fill in whenever you don't want to be here. Like that's just not gonna happen. And so I think that is the answer. I think you don't have a lot of people to juggle around with. As a small team, you were clear about what the hours were and what you were doing. To me, that's a pretty obvious situation. And so I would base my action steps around that. And so just sort of jumping in, I think action step number 1 for me is I think you need to be both clear and kind with the waffling technician. And you need to say to them, I hear you, and I am understanding that you are not liking the schedule and that it's a long drive for you to come in. And on Fridays when we're not here a whole lot, it feels like a lot of driving for work time. And I understand all of that. And this is where we are with scheduling, and this is what is required. And I can't give you, the schedule that you want. And here's why, it makes it hard for us to cover shifts. It's not fair to the other technician. It's, it sets a precedent of people sort of unilaterally telling me what the schedule is going to be. And again, as a very small team, we don't have a lot of flexibility. And so we have to work together. If this schedule doesn't work for you, I totally understand. And we can set a transition plan where you can work out and you can find something else, and and we'll go forward and with a plan for you to depart. And just be clear with them and just say, and if you decide you do want to be here, then I need you to get on board with the schedule, and let's not talk about this anymore. Let's get it worked out and go forward. One of the big things for me, I say a lot, is you can be here and you can be on board, and that will be great, or you can leave and that will be sad, but it'll be okay. But what you can't do is stay here and not be on board. And again, figure out a sort of a nice way to say that and go forward, but be clear with the person. Don't, it's not about being mean, but also I hear people being so soft and gentle in their wording that they don't tell the person, I am not going to change your schedule. You have to decide if you want this schedule or not. And if you don't, that's okay, but let's figure out how you're going to go ahead and depart. Also, I'll put a caveat on that too, is some people are really professional and they're really great and they work out that time and they decide, okay, I am going to leave because this isn't right. Other people melt down and they start no-showing and calling out. Just know that once you have that conversation, you might have to move quickly to replace that person. But step 1 for me is clear conversation with the person about what the reality is going to be going forward. Not in a mean way, but in a, hey, I care about you and I want you to know what reality is and not be surprised. And I don't want you to continue to be resentful. And so here's what you're looking at. And I need you to decide if you're going to be okay with it or not.
Yeah. And I think they laid it out really nicely, because the technician spoke to the manager and said, this doesn't work for me. And so this practice owner said to their manager that if that's what needs to happen and we're not the best fit for them, I certainly can understand that. And we will go ahead and find a new technician. And I think that's a really great example of being clear and kind. Like, you could just say that to the technician, and then, to your point, follow up with what your plan is for how you move forward from there. But I think that's great. And the other piece that I will dovetail onto it, for me, action steps wise, has to do with if you are in that position where maybe your handbook didn't say what was going to happen beforehand, that there's no better time than to start writing it down, and you will spend your whole career closing loopholes that team members find when it comes to your handbook. But thinking through things like, this is why we do an employment offer, so that everybody can agree in writing to the schedule, and that schedule changes, require X amount of notice and those kind of things. Thinking those through and starting to write them down when things like this do come up, there's no better time to start it than right now. And so I love that idea of being really clear with them about getting on board, and here's what that can look like. And also being flexible enough in the in-between. This doctor said they had applicants, and which is great, because a lot of us are not in that position to have multiple applicants. And so they said, I don't feel like finding a replacement would be a significant burden. And also, this is where I generally try and offer people flexibility. To your point, can you say, well, if you'd like to continue working the existing schedule while you look for something else, I would keep you on the existing schedule while I do interviews for a replacement for you. This is where people have the ability to come to the table and be adults. Not everyone will take you up on that, but it is a good opportunity to create a really wholesome and supportive relationship and image as an employer, to be respectful of your team and to offer them what you can. And I will say that that has served me very, very well in my career to take that path. Sometimes it's really hard to take that high road and you want to kick and scream and curse behind closed doors, but it is well worth it.
Yeah, you don't want to, you can set boundaries and say, this is what we need without being a tyrant. And I do see some people who are like, it's my way or the highway.
Yes.
And well, look, I want to be flexible and reasonable. And if there's other ways we can cover the schedule and it's fair and everybody feels good about it, then I would be open to those things. But I'm not seeing generally what you're asking for here. And this is kind of the system that we need to go with. And so you can be nice about it and also still say, this is how it's going to be.
Yeah.
I think you need to have a clear, kind conversation with the rest of the team. And it is a tiny place. We know this person is talking to the rest of the team.
Yeah,
you know,
the one
you
other
need to be
person.
mindful here. It's not a performance conversation. It's not about the other person's character, but it's just they're going to wonder, if this person leaves, am I going to be expected to work all day, every day, 4.5 days a week? And all you have to do here is, because you don't have the answers and you don't exactly know what's going to happen, but you can definitely say to your people, hey, we're looking at some scheduling stuff here. I'd probably say, Carol is I would not say anything that she has not said directly to me, but I would say, Carol is looking at other options. The schedule is maybe not working out for her. I just want you guys to know that we will be flexible. We will support each other. We do, we've had some other applicants and things. We will fill our spot, but we might have to all be kind to each other and lean in a little bit and make some adjustments while we cover. But don't worry, whatever happens, we will work through it. I'm not going to burn you out. I am not going to expect you guys to, to work all the time, but we will figure out how to make it work until we can bring someone else in who's going to be a good fit for our team. And I will tell you that we're not going to just hire someone to have someone here. I really want us to have a wonderful team and a wonderful culture. We want to work with the right person. And so it might take us a little while to fill the slot, but I hope that you'll trust me when I say that I am looking for someone who's going to be great to work with for all of us, and that they're going to really match what we're doing. And I find that just giving a nod to those people and saying, I'm looking at you and I'm not going to throw you under the bus here and you're going to get taken care of. I think that that's important. How much you talk to them really depends on the individuals, I think. Some people, the more you talk to them, the more stressed out they're going to get. And other people, the less you talk to them, the more stressed out they're going to get. So you kind of have to find that balance with your individual people. But I do think just communicating to the rest of the team, especially if this person is talking to the rest of the team, you don't have to say what you're going to do, but you should at least let them know you see them and you're hearing this and you're working on it and we're all going to work together.
I love that.
Last thing for me is just remember the classic advice. You can't control other people. You can only control how you respond to them. And so you cannot make this person stay. You cannot make them work the schedule. You cannot make them stay and work the schedule until they find another place of employment. They might blow up and flame out. Yeah. And that's going to be the end of that. And you don't have control of that other than trying to be kind and honest and fair and to talk to them. And then you just have to respond. And so I think a lot of people are struggling in just a general state of the world about there's a lot of things it feels like we can't control and there's a lot of things that are changing. And we do sometimes have to say, okay, well, I can't control these other people, but I can decide what we're going to do. And so let's go ahead and make a plan. And that might involve starting to warm up your network as far as, asking around, starting to think about how you might hire or recruit other people, stuff like that. Yeah. Start thinking about at what point are you going to pull the trigger and put out a job ad, and where are you going to put that job ad, and what will that job ad say, and what's going to recruit the person who's going to be a good fit for you. There's lots of things that you can actually work on. It's kind of a stoic view of you cannot control the obstacle, but you can find empowerment in attacking the obstacle. And attacking the obstacle means, what do I want to do to get the best person possible in here, and then get to work laying the groundwork for that to happen. So, yeah.
Well, and I think from that to that end, like this practice owner already said something that is super important, in that they said they don't want to set a precedent that doesn't allow for equity in the schedule. And so I think leaning into that, and from the you can't control what other people do perspective, and looking at it as a team and as a business owner to say, look, one of my goals as the owner is to be able to offer equity in the schedule to everyone who works here. And so this is something that is important to me. And it is therefore, as we move forward, a line in the sand. If someone comes on board, they have to be on board for supporting the same schedule that I'm asking all of us to work, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is part of shaping that culture. And to your point, controlling the obstacle to a degree, in the sense that you can say, hey, this is what I'm doing moving forward. Can't change the unintended side effect or consequence of it in losing someone now, but I'm doing it, and here's why I'm doing it. And being able to start shaping that culture from the outset, I think is really important. And I do think they ended their email by saying that it feels, honestly, it feels like me needing to establish myself as a practice owner and not be a pushover. I loved it so much. I don't think it's that you're trying to be a pushover. I think they thought through this very logically.
Yeah.
And from a multitude of angles. And I think that they are doing, people always ask me, if you were in my shoes or it was your practice, what would you do? It's like when the pet owners ask you, if it was your pet, what would you do? It's that same feeling. I think I would do the exact plan that this owner laid out. And that's why I said this was one of those ones where we both read it. We were like, they wrote our
plan. Really good. Yeah.
For us. So yeah, I don't know that I have any other suggestions or insights other than, if you didn't have it written down, now there's no better time to start a handbook.
I think the only thing we didn't mention that I would mention too is part of it is in preparing and saying, what if this person leaves? I might start thinking about what you might do in the short term to relieve pressure on the remaining team. Are there relief technicians? Because there are relief technician services out there now. What do they cost? I don't know. You have to look at your local market and see who's there. Are there relief techs you could pull in? Are there stuff that you can do with a virtual, like virtual front desk to let your front desk people rotate back? There's a lot of creative things that you can do to sort of relieve stress. And again, these are short-term fixes. But go ahead and start doing the legwork and sort of think about, boy, if I suddenly had one of my people raptured away for any reason,
what would I do?
What are some things we could do in the short term just to keep it going? Again, not a permanent fix, but something like that. I think that's the one thing we haven't mentioned that could be helpful.
Yeah.
How are you going to fill the spot, and then how are you going to keep things, sustainable until you get it done? That's all I got. And I think, I saw this and it looked to me really much like a brand new practice owner who just wanted a little bit of affirmation and validation of you're doing it right. This is a great plan. It's exactly what you should do. Go forth, keep, learn from this, grow, continue to refine. But, this is kind of what business ownership looks like. This is the not fun part. But the fun part is you get to decide that you're going home at 1:00 on Fridays and just do that.
So have a great week, everybody.
Yeah, take care, everybody.
And that's a wrap on another episode of the Uncharted Podcast. Thanks for joining us and spending your week with us. If you enjoyed this week's episode, head over to wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a review. It's the best way to let us know that you love listening. We'll see you next time.